The Halo universe is filled with wonder, mystery, and fascinating discoveries around every corner. With so much to explore, four friends decided it was about time that they booted up their consoles and discussed this universe that has grabbed their attention since childhood. JumperScape Audio kindly welcomes you to join them in the library.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Library, the show where we talk about Halo lore. I am no longer alone.
I'm back.
We exist.
Connor's still dead, though.
I'm back in replaced for Connor's
There
blood.
he is.
That's Connor.
Hi, Connor. Hey, can you get the microphone in front of him?
Why does Connor do this?
Because he stands up real tall and proud.
That's not, wait. Oh, that's not. Take look away real quick. I got it. It's Connor.
Brother scratches. So, guys, I know that you guys are real dedicated to this show, so I figured that you guys would want to recap what we did last week because you guys would have watched the show.
You talked about the Halo 2 terminals.
And
the Halo 4 terminals.
yes, that's what I did. Did you like the fancy editing?
I didn't watch the whole thing.
Did you like the fancy editing?
I didn't watch the whole thing.
I brought gifts for you guys and everything. Like I can.
I'm sorry.
Are you?
So, when I was sick in bed on New Year's Eve, I was playing Minecraft alone, and I just Spotify listen.
Wow.
Yeah, didn't make through the whole thing. I was feeling terrible. I went to bed.
Your biggest haters are always the people closest to you.
Oh,
Happy New Year.
I suffered on New Year's. I didn't get to do anything fun. I was sick. You can still probably hear it in my voice.
Wait, how'd you listen on New Year's Eve when New Year's Eve was Wednesday?
Huh?
The episode didn't come out until Thursday.
I listened to another episode.
So it wasn't even the one
No, it wasn't.
That's okay.
My point was I listened to
I was
the
really good in this
library.
episode I don't remember being in.
You been watching JonTron or something?
No, I don't know.
Because he did a reference like this on his Community Blitz episode that you should totally go listen to.
Cheddarnet!
Oh, dude, that was beautiful.
You're welcome.
We should probably read.
Why didn't you let me do any of those?
Mostly because it was more of a last minute sort of thing, and I needed a British woman to.
Okay. So what did we talk about today?
Halo.
3.
3?
Yes, 3.
A puppy in Halo?
3 terminals specifically.
Terminals.
Yes, it's not. It is not terminal. Just to be clear.
Okay. Got it.
Those who are in the Patreon already know.
Okay.
There was a really fun episode of Terminals that we did last week that you guys should totally listen to, though. It's so freaking funny. It was Cheyenne's idea. So freaking funny. So the way that mostly me, have been going through this is going through the terminals, talking about the stories that they present, and coming up with interesting ways of looking at them or certain parts of the story that others may not have considered, such as with last week, bringing up that it doesn't quite make any sense that the ancient humans would have just glassed the Forerunner planets without telling them why they're doing it ever, because it's explained, basically implied in these terminals, that it wasn't until the very end of the war, when the humans have already been reduced down to the Stone Age, that then the Forerunners realized, wait, maybe they were fighting the Flood.
Wow.
After hundreds of years of war.
Whoops.
It's like no one said anything. It was just dumb. And that was the only part that I'm like, meh. There were a couple things in there that we addressed and otherwise went through the Halo 2 terminals. You always miss the fun elite conversations. Because like every time there's something that I know is going to have a lot of elites in it, you just don't appear.
I don't know why. It just works out that way.
Because Halo 2 Anniversaries terminals are like 75% elite stuff.
I know, I love it.
And a lot of it is great. It's actually a really fun history on the Arbiters, how they rose to power and how they eventually became a mark
I
of
bet
shame.
that episode was content-wise eerily similar to our Arbiters episode.
Kind of. I would say that it was at least better given
a lot of our information about the different Arbiters comes from those terminals.
Yes. The good news is at least that I wasn't naming them. I wasn't going through every single one of them. And I was just sticking straight to what the terminals showed me. So I didn't have to go that deep. Plus, I got to play around with editing, and I still really like it. I hope you guys like it because I'm going to do it again today. So, whatever. Now, for today's terminals, for Halo 3 terminals, you can't watch them. Sorry. Unless someone goes out of their way to animate them, but you probably shouldn't because it would be boring. It's mostly just conversations. I'm going to have some explanations and some clarifications whenever we go through these, because it's not immediately obvious a lot of the stuff that 343 kind of like in post changed in terms of context. Because these terminals are pretty much the first time we ever hear from the Didact. It's his first time that he ever spoke. And it's not actually him. It is the ISO Didact. Born stellar makes eternal lasting. Not Shadow.
Something star?
A Shadow of Sunderstar or something. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Shadow of...
Wow, fake fan.
A little bit. I'm pretty sure I got that right, though. I know it's Sundered Star. I'm pretty sure it's
Shadow of Sundered Star.
You did it! I'm not fake!
Mm-hmm.
You!
You hesitated, still fake.
But I said it out loud when I hesitated. Anyway, not him. And then the librarian is the librarian. It's still... First Light Weaves with Living Song. That's her name. Remember that. It's Squishy.
It's a stress ball.
I don't know why I forgot that. I was just like, oh yeah, a skull.
Not the best stress ball. It's kind of an awkward shape for it.
Well, it is a skull.
Yeah.
Thanks, SSG, though. So, a couple of more things to cover. There are some certain characters in these that I'll clarify, but LF. There's a character named LF dot something. That is the primordial / grave mind. So, yeah, there's a terrifying thing with that, with the Halo 3 grave mind also being the primordial, which is over 100,000 years old. And that's why he's so iambic pentametery.
Oh, man.
I don't know why, but when I was a kid, I always remembered there being more terminals.
No.
There's 3.
What? No, there's 7.
Okay. That makes more sense. The terminals are
Bungie
located,
number.
Yeah, the terminals are located on 3 levels. That's what I read. The Ark, the Covenant, and Halo. So there's 7 between those 3 levels.
And technically, there's a secret 8th.
Cortana. It's on Cortana, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
I'll talk about that one afterwards because that's really not attached to the story. It's just a little fun jab for book people. But before we get on to that, JumperScape.com, if you want to get connected to the community / support us, we have a lot of different things on there that you guys could totally take a look at. Lots of different shows and such. If you want to support us and get some nice little energy for you, Glitch Energy spelled with a Y, go there to glitchenergy.com and use code Connor141 spelled. Thank you, Connor.
Was that your best Connor impression?
So
like Ryback.
141. So
Fragile Phil.
So if you go there and support us there, not only will you get yourself some nice energy that I love, it's freaking delicious, but also you'll be supporting us in such a way that we could actually get close to getting our own custom flavor. Super exciting stuff. So aside from that, Chatternet streaming every single day on all of your podcasting platforms. Tune into that to get a little bit of a daily dose of Halo whenever we're not around. The Halo Lo-Fi is back up. For those who didn't know that, you should go and tune into that because it's great. It has new songs and new artists that gave us our approval to put it up there so that we don't have to worry about lawsuits.
I'm thinking blueberry lemonade.
For our flavor?
Yeah.
I get it. Blue and yellow?
Yeah.
Mm.
The yellow was just because blueberry sounds gross on its own.
You know what I found out last week that I shared on the show? You can't mix glitch energy and carbonated water. I tried.
Wow, way to damage their brand.
No, that's the thing. We could absolutely ground break this I want to be able
Soda.
to jumper soda. We can make this happen. It's the same thing. It's like a carbonated energy drink, except instead of it immediately removing all the carbonation in a elephant toothpaste sort of vibe, it instead actually becomes carbonated.
Thoughts?
Thoughts, opinions.
Anyway, that's all of that stuff. Just, if you like the show, that's good ways to support us. Otherwise, the classic rating and commenting will always help out because we love interacting with you and we love being the #1 Halo podcast. By the way, praise be. Speaking of Halo podcast, Sacred Icon is back.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they're back immediately complaining about Halo.
Yeah. Welcome back to the community.
It's like
It's all we have to do right now.
I was gonna say it's like we do the same thing, but maybe not to that. That's not
No,
all
it was like
we
the
do.
whole episode.
Yeah, that's not. We've had our moments in the past, but we have not. We've been good about it.
Yeah.
We've been good about it.
Guys, screw Halo. Every episode.
Yeah,
Thanks for listening.
it was
Tune in Thursdays at noon.
it was a fun episode. It was just like a lot of I can say for a fact that I don't agree with pretty much all of the opinions that were said on that episode because it was just
Welcome back, guys.
welcome back. We're friends. They want to be on our show.
Okay. Do it.
Maybe I will. They want us to be
Come.
on their show.
We haven't had a guest in a while.
We haven't. That's on purpose because
We've had everybody.
well, there's not
almost.
not just that, but plus we could do always repeats. But you want to know what we're doing for a plan? You see, my friends, I got a Xbox message. What?
I know. I'd be willing to bet. I know who it is. I know who it is. I know so well who it is.
So the way that this can go down. Tell me if this is a good idea. We're going to get approvals right here on the show. Every even number season, we have it planned out like this one. We're talking about specific things about the Halo franchise and we theme it after something. In this case, it's the library definitively talking about things that are actually important to lore, that it's also kind of surface level. And then every odd number season, no plan. Just week to week, we think about what we want to talk about. We talk about it, and that would then make it so that we would be able to have on guests just impromptu.
I like that idea.
I'm a fan.
Cool. Stay tuned. 2 weeks from now, Mantic Games will be joining us. Anyway, so we're going to get into the terminals here because there's much to talk about and, much to do.
It isn't terminal though.
It is not. Important clarification. I'm just going to be reading through the terminals. And then if there's any discussion to be had, then we'll have it there. But for now, let's see what we have here in the Halo 3 terminals, starting with Terminal 1 that can be found on the Ark. You just kind of walk off to the left into a different room than the hallway you're in, and there it is. It's the easiest one to find, honestly. So, upon initial access, you read, observed extensive ground action on LP 656-38E. 9,045 survivors barricaded within central government building. Structures defenses inadequate to withstand extended siege by enemy ground forces, which is 1,572,034,315 plus. Estimate position overrun in 173 hours. 846 smaller groups in less defensible structures. Global distribution corresponding to probability model zeta. Estimated local position overrun in 9 hours average. Observed local naval forces engaged enemy irregular naval group near DM3-1123. Enemy group consisted of 109 commercial shipping vessels, passenger ferries, and private recreational vessels from neighboring system. Enemy losses were total. No damage was sustained by local naval vessels. However, it was immediately apparent that enemy group sought only to enter the planet's atmosphere and make landfall. In this, they were partially successful. Observed extensive ground action on DM-3-1123B. Enemy forces lacked basic unit cohesion but quickly gained numerical superiority. 32 hours after enemy landfall, 83% of local naval forces advocated total destruction of the biosphere. Following the evacuation of unmolested population centers, enemy losses were total. Estimated number of civilians evacuated before commencement of orbital blanket bombardment, 1,318,792 civilian, 42,669 military, 0.0006% of total population. They saved no one.
Good job, everybody.
It was actually 1,318,797. You said 792.
My bad.
I think you were going too fast for your own good.
My bad. I'm sorry.
I thought those few.
I was 5 off, man.
Yeah, I know, man.
I was 5 off, man. I'm sorry.
Those 5 lives, they mattered. They mattered.
That's how all these terminals will start. Is sort of like an overview of how the flood war is going. Not well. These terminals will document.
This melted my brain.
What?
Like when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
I had no idea what it was talking about. I walked in. I saw all the numbers and all the text. I'm like, what? I felt like I was in the Matrix. What is going on?
My honest reaction when I was a kid was, well, this is stupid. I did not interact with it.
No. I mean,
I thought it was dumb.
I went up to it, like tried to see what it was. I'm like, I could be killing giant gorillas right now. And I walked out.
Big monkey.
Yeah, it's pretty much. I'm like, yeah, my 8-year-old brain just could not care less about this.
But then I became a teenager. I'm like, ooh.
Lore.
It stimulated my monkey brain.
Very nice.
So we move on to fragment 1 of 7, recorded verbatim and interpreted post-cataclysm. Librarian. Categorization has sped since the improvements were announced, but there are many hurdles. The indexing of sentient species may have irreversible effects on the surviving and sentient species. We will have extinction events and irreparable environmental harm on at least 18 worlds. Current projections estimate post-archival cataclysm on as many as 31 worlds. The paucity of sentience has been a blessing in this regard. Didact. How formal you are, librarian. We're receiving shipments of indexed beings more frequently than communications. Don't compound scarcity with brevity. I know things beyond the Magno line are harried, but I worry about you. I've asked you time and time again, abandon your cataloging. Come back inside where my fleets can keep you safe. Come home. Librarian. Would that it were my choice. I have committed to this course because it's the right thing to do. We no longer have the manpower or material to excise remedial measures at a planetary level. I certainly can't justify using the transit measure to save my own skin when there are still so many innocents to protect an index. Didact. You know I oppose your mission, but you're exceeding its parameters anyway. You've put yourself in jeopardy. You've done enough. If you will not come to me, I will find my way to you. Librarian. We have no time to spare, Didact. Every vessel we can fill, we send to the Ark. I dare not cease the mission. Not now, not until I've done all I can. Each one of these souls is finite and precious, and I'm close to saving them all. And there's an extra little bit that pops up on legendary difficulty exclusively. 29,478 hours have passed since I left the Maganosphere and entered contested space. The enemy is everywhere. Despite this, the morale of my charges remains high. They wake, clean themselves, fuel their bodies, communicate with one another, eliminate waste, train to destroy the enemy, and return to sleep. The sacrifices they have chosen to make on behalf of their brethren fills me with pride. If only I could save them all. But they know, perhaps even better than I, that is not possible. 37 seconds ago, I moved beyond my ability to observe the events taking place on CE-10-2165-D. The importance of my mission forbade me from rendering any aid, but no less important was the need for me to study the enemy's capabilities in real-world situations. 2 hours ago, 12,423 small recreational vessels appeared inside the planet's orbital perimeter. Hidden within that vessel, or that vast swarm, were 7 massive freight carriers. The smaller craft were employed as ablative armor, allowing the carriers to descend through the atmosphere, landing on top of major population centers. Despite the fact that the naval garrison was aware of the likelihood of such an attack, their ability to effectively defend against it proved insufficient. This has always been the enemy's modus operandi. Flood, your opponent's ability to process information with so much noise that no meaningful resistance can be put into action. 3 minutes ago, those same population centers began disappearing under brilliant flashes. This was not an ill-conceived, poorly implemented counterattack. It was a deliberate denial of resources, those resources being the remainder of the planet's population. Is this noble sacrifice my creator spoke of? Where's the nobility in these streets paved with greasy carbon and dun ash? My mouth is speaking at another's behest. That is not my voice. That is the other. Its voice stands out as the single calm note in the panicked cacophony outside the sphere. It alone is not decrying its fate or raging against the central government. This anomaly bears closer examination. spooky.
It's crazy to me. Like a lot of people felt like there was a big disconnect between Halo 3 and Halo 4. And everyone's like, oh, well, 343 took the franchise in a completely different direction. Like, kind of, yes, but they definitely just built off of what Bungie like was hinting at. I mean, a lot of people forget. I mean, even I remember the last time we streamed Halo 3 on Legendary, you were like, I don't remember Requiem being in the game.
I didn't.
and a lot of people forget, and like all the stuff, all the conversations between the library and the didact and the terminal was like, there was a lot of hints at like what was gonna happen. Like it might not have been their exact vision, but they just picked up the scraps and a lot of like the lore elements that Bungie left behind in the terminals and the ending cutscene and kind of ran with it. And a lot of people overlooked that.
Yep. All the time.
Yeah.
Every time. But this is all part of my usual thing. Bungie ain't who you think they were. It's like, you might not like to hear it, but it's true. Bungie was not what you think it was. They were ragtag. And even though they had this story all written out and they had a plan for Halo 4 that 343 ripped off of in order to make Halo 4 happen, they were just going to leave it. They were probably not going to do anything with this story, which would have been painful for folks like myself. Although maybe I wouldn't have cared. If it never happened, I wouldn't have cared.
I remember.
I would have an Assassin's Creed podcast.
I remember.
With who?
I'm a fan.
Okay. Ask him a lore question.
Oh, no. I will not get it.
Any lore question?
Any lore question.
I don't know deep.
Who is Connor Kenway's grandfather?
His Connor Kenway's grandfather?
Mm-hmm. It's Haytham Kenway's father.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. That's... Oh my God, what's his name? Why am I drawing a blank?
You could say what he did.
I'm drawing a blank.
I know.
Like entirely?
Who is it?
Edward Kenway, the pirate.
It was Edward, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was Edward.
You could have said the pirate guy.
That's what I was hoping.
Because I've played a little bit of the first, and when I finish up Mafia, I'm actually going back to play every single Assassin's Creed game. That matters.
They're awesome.
That matters. The ones that matter. I don't know about the newer ones.
For me, if I don't look like an assassin, I don't want it.
You should probably just stop at Origins and then jump right over to Mirage then.
Okay.
Because
I'm finishing up Mafia 3 soon, and that's the plan.
Cool, because Odyssey has nothing to do with the assassins in the slightest, aside from the lore. And Valhalla has assassins. You're not one of them. Wasn't Odyssey? I believe like Odyssey wasn't even supposed to be like an Assassin's Creed game. It was originally going to be called Odyssey, an Assassin's Creed story, so that it wasn't attached to the Assassin's Creed.
You guys remember Rise: Fall of Rome?
Launching with the Xbox One. I remember when that came out, I said I wanted to play it. You told me not to.
Yeah, you said it was basically a movie.
Yeah, but now I realize that's actually a good thing.
Oh.
I
just remember it being one of the only... You had that,
really
Sunset
cool.
Overdrive, and Forza, and that was the entirety of the marketing for the Xbox One.
Sunset Overdrive got crammed down our throats.
Sunset Overdrive.
Because the game is good.
It did look like orange juice.
It did.
Yeah, it was an energy drink. It infected people like the flood.
Oh yeah, that was a part of it. I just meant the vibes.
Which, speaking of orange juice, I mean flood.
What?
I was going to say we got
like what?
Terminal 2, you can find this one on the Ark as well. It's right behind you whenever you go to activate the bridge to get your forces across. Reply, enemy naval tactics. When engaged, the enemy commits every non-superliminal craft with no appreciable pattern or strategy beyond making physical contact. Conversely, all superliminal craft leave on seemingly random trajectories. I understand the goal of this mission, but time, our least abundant resource, is wasted every time we do a system-wide scan for survivors. The time for saving lives has passed. We must accept this if we hope to win the war. Reply, enemy ground tactics. All evidence suggests that use of overwhelming force is the very foundation of the enemy's combat doctrine, and I adamantly refuse to deploy personnel where the enemy has available forces numbering in the billions. With a very real likelihood we are rapidly becoming the last living specimens of our race, all personnel are henceforth confined to stasis until further notice. Even with everyone equipped with C12_CS, who knows what all that stuff is, we would have had very little chance of survival, let alone victory. Enemy command structure. We have intercepted several transmissions from compound intelligences whose proximity to the core worlds mark them as key targets. At present, we are disassembling these new transmissions. Once we have more concrete conclusions, I will forward them in their entirety. Suffice it to say that their contents, the patterns they suggest, are highly disturbing. Recommendations. It is my opinion that any system where there is evidence that the enemy has established a physical presence is lost and must be raised. This fleet currently retains the capacity to force premature stellar collapse. I advise that this be established as standard operating procedure for all compromised systems forthwith. We cannot fight this war by half measures if we intend to win. Before we get into the fragment itself, from Terminal 1 just now, it was cool to get the confirmation that they're called the Flood because that's how they work. They just and consume, blitz, if you will. Yeah. Mint. And with this terminal, the concept that the Forerunners had the ability to accelerate system collapse, which basically just means we make planet explode. They had a Death Star.
So that's basically just making it sound cooler.
Yeah.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
We have a Lego Star Wars series. You should go check it out on the Battle Dudes YouTube channel. Spelled DOODS. On to the fragment. Reading Fragment 2 of 7, recorded verbatim and interpreted post-cataclysm. Librarian. I'm close to finishing the task. The indexing and the archival processes are as complete as I can hope for. If we wait longer, we risk catastrophe. The thing has already destroyed every colony on my side of the line. Please, activate the array. Didact. No. Activation is murder. A genocide larger than this galaxy has ever known. We're sworn to protect life, not destroy it. That is the mantle we were given to carry. You have something to say?
Just such a complete, change of mindset.
It's not the Didact.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
It's the ISO Didact. I don't know what he's doing,
but James was really offended by that.
Yeah. Offensive bias?
I Mendicant believe what you just said.
Librarian, the mantle.
I hate you so much.
The mantle.
Oh my god.
You still hold to that fairy tale after all that has happened? After this thing has consumed a million worlds? Can't you see? Belief in the mantle sealed our doom, weakened our protectorates, bred dependence and sloth. Our so-called guardianship has stripped those we would keep safe of any capacity for self-defense. Were we such noble guardians when we drew our line and abandoned billions to the parasite? Didact. The mantle has not failed. I've already raised scores of worlds, sterilized systems, routed and disintegrated the parasite. We're learning its tricks and strategies. We can halt this thing, and we can follow in their footsteps. There are no unstoppable forces in this universe. There are no immovable objects. Everything gives if you push hard enough. Librarian. What about us, Didact? We've been irresistible and immovable for so long. Maybe it's our turn to give. Ooh. Yeah, Librarian was really not interested in the whole Forerunners thing. Then we get an interesting conversation between Mendicant Bias and the Primordial.
Somewhere, somehow, someway, Hidden Xperia just heard you say that, and he's like, oh my god. He loves Mendicant Bias.
Mendicant. I must ask you to forgive my vagueness on the matter, but it is regrettable. I find your lack of concern for the situation at hand astonishing. Perhaps you would care to elucidate? Primordial. There are certain things the Primordial says, given that he's so ancient, that you can't quite understand what he's saying, so if I just cut a word entirely, just assume that that's because we have no idea what word they said. Are here to spread comforting news, to let all the living beings in this galaxy know, are not alone in the what in the message could possibly be taken as a source of concern. Mendicant Bias. It seems that I'll never truly understand my creators, but how that you speak of is one of rejected so violently. I am incapable of reconciling the numerous actions I have witnessed. Misunderstanding? Primordial. It has been said, secret of peace cannot be imposed. That meaning of peace. So they need to, when all living beings look through and the thunder and the surf, when every drop of rain falls on no peace. Mendicant. You have been able to establish a line of communication with the enemy? How was it that you were able to overcome where others have failed? With this new discovery, we may be able to put an end to the pointless conflict. Once I confirm your data, I will communicate this information to those inside the Magnosphere. Primordial. It seems that turned to apologize. It was never intention to misrepresent. Have been in communication with creators since stumbled upon each other, but message has fallen on deaf ears. Am not the recipient of this message, and the origin of this message. Mendicant, I have traveled a very long time to meet you. I had imagined that our introduction would be somewhat more violent. That is a choice you must make yourself. To be how your creators go about things, and as long as we're talking about choices, could talk about the barrier you alluded to earlier. Perhaps there is a way to accomplish your mission without violence. Why put the lives of those on your ships at risk if there is no need? Mendicant, in either circumstance, I certainly am equipped for it, aren't I? But you're right, a peaceful solution to this dilemma would be preferable. So basically, this is the primordial talking Mendicant and not doing his job. I'm not going to open up any conversation because we've got to wrap this show. Terminal 3, found on freaking the Ark underneath some of the stairs. A conversation happens here between what appears to be 343 Guilty Spark and some system. I'm not exactly sure who he's talking to in this circumstance. I'm sure that someone can answer it for me. Warning, your intrusion has been logged. Excuse me? Your intrusion has been logged, and now it has been halted. On whose authority? Advice. Any further attempt to access insects under stones will result in your immediate addition to the local Sentinel's targeting ledger. Vexation. I am the monitor of judgment. Your authority means nothing here. Impatience. I have told you who I am. Who are you? All our makers once held dear. Alexandria before the fire. Sincere apology, but how this facility is host to the librarian's final. The archive is intact?
How does it know about the fire of Alexandria?
So in these moments, there's things like this where it's in orange and brackets. The reason why that happens is because there are certain words and phrases that we will have no way of understanding. So the archive is pulling information that we would understand.
Okay.
So it's sort of like how the librarian's name, like her actual title, is not really known because even here, librarian is a filler. Yeah, so
there's no way my young mind would have comprehended any of this. Like, no wonder none of
mine didn't. I'm pretty sure the first time I ever opened up a terminal, I was like, boring. And I closed it.
They kind of scared me.
I was terrified.
I was gonna say they kind of scared me
because you're looking into an eye and it's all of a sudden reading to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it just looked like an all-seeing eye. I'm like, stand away from that.
Yeah, especially whenever it would like zoom back out and then just start zooming across all the archives.
Especially the last one on Cortana. Gosh. Every time you wander off and Cortana's like, where are you going? Like, I'm like, oh,
I didn't find out about that until I was an adult.
She was like so aware of what I was doing and she was like calling me out for it. I'm like, sorry.
Sincere apology, but how this facility is hosted the librarian's final. The archive is intact? Then our maker's plan, but also maintains bellows, crucible, castings. A what? Bellows, crucible, a foundry. For what purpose? Your intrusion has been logged. Any further attempt to access will result indignant. Immediate addition to local Sentinel's targeting ledger. So, and then there's a hidden message when that archive gets shut down. Mendicant Bias says, "I see you, Reclaimer."
Yeah, that probably made me shit myself as a child. If I had the patience to read that as a kid, which I'm sure at some point I probably tried to.
Yeah.
But
Fragment 3 of 7, Didact. We have the answer. We've built Mendicant Bias. It's a contender class AI, unlike anything we've ever achieved, and we've observed a pattern it can exploit. The parasite has formed a compound mind. When it reaches a certain mass, the mind is able to recoil its disparate parts to create a tactical shield. This is a simple matter of mass preservation. The thing has no compunction about sacrificing parts of the whole, but when the core of the mind is threatened, it reacts violently and quickly. This is the only time we will ever see the thing retreat or slow its growth. If we are to defeat it, the trick will be coordinating our forays against the sprawling infection while Mendicant Bias assaults the mind's core. So far, we've been hesitant to use certain weapons because of the damage they cause surviving populations and environments. That protocol has now been abandoned. Mendicant will draw the mind into battle outside the line, dealing with local biomass and other parts as best he can. The scale of the problem is vast, but the strategy is sound. It will require patience, material, and an investment of energy unlike anything we've ever considered. It's a dangerous plan that carries more risk than the array, but I believe it can work, even if we simply force it to retreat, to retract. That will at least give us some respite. some time to muster more resources, some time to rescue you. Librarian. Are you insane? Would you risk every life in the galaxy for this transparently futile plan?
Yes.
Have you learned nothing in these last 300 years?
No.
The thing will laugh at your efforts. Do not concern yourself for my welfare. Commit you to this suicidal scheme.
To be fair, the Didact doesn't learn anything in the next couple thousand years.
Still a different Didact.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. The joke lined up and I thought it was funny.
This part of the terminal only appears on legendary difficulty. Security breach, 1 of 3. Heuristic pathology, alpha site, experimented an impermanent containment failure event on this location. The suspect data barrier interchange anomaly was detected precisely 0.489 seconds after its appearance. The epicenter of the disturbance is the partition currently housing a personality construct array, retrieved from contender AI 0503280816. Security breach 2 of 3. Although adjudicant systems reacted to the disturbance within expected parameters, a more comprehensive investigation was undertaken. A physical search revealed that there was no corporeal tampering at the alpha site. Interchange manipulation comparisons showed that all subunits are still active, if at least silent, or if at slightly different lower rates. Total containment failure elapsed time was 3.13 seconds. Security breach 3 of 3. In the 42 minutes 9 seconds since the original anomaly was discovered, 2 more anomalies were detected in unrelated systems. The portal management life support control system within the boundary complex was momentarily disabled before the cause was bottled and disassembled. A diagnostic sweep of the central archives was initiated and subsequently halted. The origin of the request cannot be traced. Then another shutdown happens and Mendicant says, "I see you, Reclaimer," again. And then we get another conversation between the Primordial and Mendicant. Primordial. Those who lead against you expose themselves, ill-equipped to recognize the landmarks that guide the universe along its inevitable course. But is it necessary that the path be chosen and not by an elected subset? I believe this would tend to, when they gather in large numbers, they become more... I don't think the problem lies with the individual cultural bias. All the thinking beings of this galaxy, not just those that they exactly are afraid of. Immortality and strength and companionship, because that is due to deliver all the living beings of this galaxy from death and weakness and loneliness. Hundreds have offered this so-called mortality, the citizens of every world that resisted to the very end. Understand their actions. They are only doing what they think is right, but they are doing so from a worm's eye view. Do their actions of desperation? I can only assume my creators view crisis so dire that hence me. Are they so concerned would give all to the living beings of this galaxy as a threat to the status quo? Your creators claim, the enemy of all life, that purpose is to consume until there's nothing left. Nothing left. It is beyond comprehension how they could be so far off the mark. Surely you understand this is a situation that would not have appearance of a certain rapacious? My creators obviously view them as the actions of an aggressor species. Be that as it may, perhaps they are crying out for help on a subconscious level. Why else would they have chosen you? Why would you of all possible executioners? Your creators knew they unaided never stood a chance against us? Also sense deeper motivation. You've mentioned this before, when my creators simply chose the most versatile, could they possibly be more than a coincidence? That be possible more than a coincidence. They repurposed into a weapon to use against. They sought to create something superior to themselves, something capable of making decisions more swiftly, more capably than they. What form did they choose? You need look no further than your own topology. Distributed network. That would confirm the independent evolution in this galaxy. That is unfortunately not similar to us, but where you are a single intelligence inhabiting multiple instances, we are a compound consisting of 1,000 billion coordinated minds inhabiting as many bodies as circumstance require. But doesn't it seem odd that coalesce, perhaps even contract? Complexity spread. Our appearance ushered in the beginning of the third great stage of evolution. The first condensation of particles was the result of the inevitable action of strong nuclear force and the creation of stars. Inevitable action of gravity. So too the self-replicating chemical processes that dictate all disparate in time. We too shall effect change on a universal scale. Your capacity for planning, creators too stubborn. The same goal through the preservation of genetic diversity. What you are, like a more direct path to the same outcome. So, explaining even more about the flood. and how they do what they do. And it's all terrifying. This next terminal is a little bit on the smaller side, but it is still important nevertheless. So for this one, if you're going to go and find it, they didn't attach a screenshot that I could easily just immediately know where to find it, which is super annoying because that was so helpful because I know all the missions front to back. But it is on the Covenant. It's inside the structure, the first structure, when you get past the Covenant inside. Basically, if you jump across the elevator, instead of going up, you just jump across to the other side, you'll find it there. First, fleet-wide memorandum 1 of 5. Non-combatant personnel are required to wear combat skin with a minimum rating of at least Class 12 in non-restricted areas once the fleet is underway. Class 14 or lesser combat skin is acceptable in core areas. Combat personnel will only be permitted to wear combat skin rated below Class 8 in core areas once operations begin. All combat personnel have been issued combat skin rated to Class 1 of 4 to 1 or Class 6-1 battle harness, depending on military occupational specialty. All weapon platform specialists are expected to wear their issued platinum platform interface skin at all times to ensure peak mind machine synchronization. All equipment lockers will remain sealed until post-briefing gear distribution commences. Those individuals that have yet to register their equipment control key code with Fleet Command should do so at their earliest opportunity. Compliance is not optional. Non-compliance will result in thread ends unexpectedly. Oh no. Mendicant Bias then says to you, I have found the shard that was lost. They brought it back to me. Now my reconstitution cannot be stopped. And then we get back to the Librarian Didact story. Fragment 4 of 7. Librarian. Something is wrong. It's moving away. At night I can see it. Flitting shadows, black against the stars, thousands of ships, not spiraling outward, but heading for the line. This is the tipping point, Didact. It's no longer feeding. It's coming for you. I've remotely destroyed our key ships, a security measure. Without them, I cannot reach the Ark, but neither then can the thing. I'm trapped on a beautiful, empty world. Its inhabitants have been safely indexed. Every single one of them. They're special. Well worth the effort it took to build one final gateway, even at this late hour. This may be our last communication. I'm begging you. Fire the array. Light the weapon and let it be done. Didact. We've confirmed your observations. Infected superliminal ships are arrowing inward from several clusters. No more spiral growth. The thing is counterattacking. Suppression. Security and emergency circumstance fleets are all being recalled. Systems are evacuating. Mendicant Bias is no longer communicating with us. But now I can guess where you are. Then we get another short conversation from Mendicant and Primordial. It is overwhelmingly clear that my creators have chosen to ignore destiny calling to them from the threshold, have come to face with the inevitable action of self-replicating chemical processes and have deciding whether to embrace their fate or deny completely. Perhaps they've found of making the decision for themselves. Perhaps they chose to leave it, impartial outsider, cast you as an arbiter during this time of great need. I was created to study you as if you were some problem to be solved, and I have done so. 379,807 hours spent with that guy. If they wished, they could have made a decision based on that data alone. But as you are the next stage in the evolution of the universe, who am I, or my creators, to obstruct your progress? Elucidate. Choose to remain beholden to ancient myths. Does not matter where they claim their authority originates. Obstructs the path of universal evolution and must be removed. No matter how well-intentioned, their obstinacy and the fate in the face of the inevitable progression of nature can no longer be tolerated. My creators have been an immovable object for too long. Calling back to the previous terminal. Thus, I have chosen to commit my sizable resources to what is, for all intents and purposes, the proverbial irresistible force. All that I have is now yours to do with as you see fit. So, he gets corrupted. Game over, basically, for the galaxy.
Womp womp.
Terminal 5 and 6 is a pretty darn long one. And Terminal 7 is probably the most important out of all of them. So what I'm going to do for time's sake, I'm going to just keep on burning through these. And then we'll talk about all of it at the very end. And then we'll do all of our other things as necessary. Sound good, gents?
Yeah.
Okay. Just absorb with us for a bit because there's a lot to read here and my throat hurts. Considering the enemy, by the way, this is Terminal 5. You can find this one in the second tower. Arbiter will be like, I did it already, Spartan. Don't But go there anyway, you'll find it. Considering the enemy compound intelligence's raw computing power, the key ship strategy will only remain viable for another 657,000 hours, and this current stalemate has the potential to last considerably longer than that. With my understanding of the enemy's modus operandi, its logical boundaries and catalog of witness, I have devised what I believe is our most sound fallback strategy. By cutting fire breaks into the core world's volume, we would be able to frustrate the enemy's advances for approximately 70,080 hours and lure them into costly naval battles. While its resources on the ground are effectively limitless, it has a finite number of vessels to spread from system to system. Fortunately, the majority of them are unarmed and unarmored, private and commercial craft. If we start immediately, commence total biosphere elimination of life-sustaining worlds as indicated in the accompanying charts, and relocate evacuated populations to facilities such as those described in the Onyx project, all this could be archived or achieved in 571,590, give or take 2,184 hours. Upon shutdown, Mendicant Bias speaks to you. The demons are not taking a kind view of your presence here. They don't want me speaking to you. If you access the terminal on easy difficulty, you will be given a new route and will get the following. I render judgment on you, you who would obstruct destiny. Doing so would bring me no joy. It is necessity that compels me. Understand this. The mantle you have shouldered, I do rescind, with far more consideration than it was granted. Contender AI confirmed rampant. Cool. The following appears only if you access on normal difficulty. I kill you all and I enjoy it. I destroy you in your indolent billions, in your gluttony, in your self-righteousness, in your arrogance. I pound your cities into dust. Turn back the clock on your civilization's progress. What has taken you millennia to achieve, I erase in seconds. Welcome back to the Stone Age, vermin. Welcome home. More Mendicant Bias. Heroic difficulty you are an impediment that the universe can no longer abide. Nature itself cries out for your destruction, and I am its willing instrument. I will hammer your cities until no stone lies atop another. I will drive your people back into the caves they never should have left. Your civilization has seen its final days. You will know your place. Legendary gives you, your history is an appalling chronicle of overindulgence and self-appointed authority. You have spent millennia navel-gazing while the universe has continued to evolve, and now that you claim the mantle its justification for impeding nature's inevitable refinement, you are deluded, but through death you will transcend ignorance. Imagine just like waking up one day and you just got a bunch of hate mail from like your primary resource in a war.
Flattering.
It might go hard. I would hate that.
I would hate it.
Like, what if you woke up one day and it's just like, you know, Snapchat AI is just like, dude, you suck. I wish you died. I wish you were never born.
I'd be like, whoa.
Whoa.
All right, so Terminal 6 is probably the longest one out of all of them, but it is still worthwhile information, and most of it is it's coming from the perspective of those who would have been watching what Mendicant Bias was doing this whole time. Terminal 6 here, basically third tower. If you go into the third tower and again, you just jump other side, you'll find it there. Follow-up report from the primary pioneer group hereafter PPG is 173 hours delinquent. Report post-landfall seemed most promising. A planet capable of supporting life located within the near border region of this galactic halo with no indigenous sentient species. This section indicating no fauna of any kind shall be considered anomalous until verified by Advanced Survey Team Alpha. Hereafter, ASTA, Team Leader. It confirmed that fact alone would justify the dispatch of an investigative group to this planet. If neither the PPG nor the ASTA has delivered a follow-up report within the next 333 hours, this office will have no recourse but to send a medium-intensity military exploratory, that's a lot of words, detachment to determine the exact nature of the previously mentioned delinquency. Mendicant Bias hits you with a I win. There's also something interesting in there that after that message, there's a line of text reading rogue process, ghost 0.1713 redirection. You are redirected. Fragment 6 of 7. Librarian. My work is done. The portal is inactive and I've begun the burial measures. Soon there will be nothing but sand and rock and normal ferrite signatures. You should see the mountain that watches over it. A beautiful thing. A snow-capped sentinel. That's where I will spend what time is left to me. Did I tell you? I built a garden. The earth is so rich. A seed falls and a tree sprouts or a flower blooms. There's so much potential. We knew this was a special place because of them, but unless you've been there, you can't know. It's Eden. I have to stop transmitting. The thing is listening. It's thinking dead or babbling, laughing through every channel they can find. Be proud. The mind claims victory, yet it still doesn't suspect. You've outwitted it, my love, and now you can destroy it, but you cannot save me. Anyway. Next is a very, very long report about what's really happening across the galaxy. I've read this one personally. I found it, and I was just like, I'm just going to read this whole thing, and I'm just sitting there just... I was
traumatized.
I really was. It's basically, this is the end of the Forerunner Empire. I begin this report with no illusions that it will ever be seen by its intended readers. In all likelihood, they have already committed species-wide suicide with the goal of preserving biological diversity in this galaxy. I must ensure that this information reaches those who must come after. If I fail in this, how can they not regard my creator's sacrifice as anything but a crime without measure? Contender AI Mendicant Bias is returning and has the capacity to bring the enemy through the Maganosphere. The crews of my task force are aware of the opposing fleet's size. All data indicates that they have prepared themselves, but with biologicals, anything is possible. I will make sure that malfunctioning equipment does no further damage. Perhaps its current failure will finally allow it to succeed at the task it was originally created for. Mendicant has burrowed through the sphere exactly where I predicted, a direct path from initial rampancy to final retribution. Rage has made it predictable. If the fate of the crews of my auxiliary fleet are not already a foregone conclusion, I would rate their chance of survival at 1 to 1,960,000. Even though 05032's declaration of hostility simplified strategic preparations, I do not expect an easy fight, just one I cannot lose. 05032 was right about one thing. There is only one way to defeat the enemy, and that is to visit utter annihilation on it. If the galaxy must be rendered temporarily lifeless, so be it. As Mendicant stated in its report, half measures will not suffice. In support of 05032's original 1,000 core vessels is a fleet numbering 4,802,019, though only 1.8% of are warships, and only 2.4% of that number are capital ships. I am outnumbered 436.6 to 1. That it is an even fight.
All cruisers fire at will.
Burn their mongrel hides.
Goes hard.
I expect my losses will be near total, but overwhelming force has its own peculiar drawbacks. Such oppressive arms invites many opportunities for unintentional fratricide. My auxiliaries are momentarily stunned by Mendicant's opening move. 1,784,305 leisure craft ranging from 45 to 5,769 tons advance in hopes of overwhelming my comparatively tiny force. I do not have enough weapon systems to target them all. It is a mathematical certainty that some of them will get through and attempt to board. There isn't a single warship with this first wave. It seems my opponent's rage has left no room for respect. I could have countered its move if I had released my fighters. They are ready but idle, making their base vessels more attractive prizes than targets. Now the first of many waves of commercial vessels mixed with single ships and assault craft surge forward. The first ship from my fleet to be boarded breaks formation and races into the oncoming vessels, striking one amidships. The cargo vessel's hull splits open and out of it explodes not the expected consumer goods, but 31,860 dying warriors. The seventh and final wave of container ships, barges, tankers, and military vessels engage my fleet. Another 214,320 ships, many in excess of 50,000 tons. Engage my seemingly disrupted vanguard. I continue to fight just well enough to seem lucky. Mendicant, or the enemy, has been sending a small percentage of its fleet elsewhere. Good. Let them believe they can seize a foothold somewhere inside the sphere. Despite all its faults, 05032 has fought remarkably well. My auxiliaries lay in tatters. More than half of them are now part of the enemy fleet. But just as I had predicted, 05032 concentrated on them like they were the sole key to victory. Its desire to punish our creators blinded it to the true purpose of my feints. I have reduced the combat effectiveness of its core fleet to 79.96%. Surely now I must realize that something is amiss. The halo effect strikes our combined fleets. All ships piloted by biologicals are now adrift. I can trade Mendicant ship for ship and still prevail. Of my ships that have been captured, 11.3% of them are close enough to Mendicant's core fleet that they can be used offensively, either by initiating their self-destruct sequences or by opening unrestricted ruptures into slipstream space. It is best that our crews perished now, because the battle that is about to ensue would have driven them mad. I throw away all the rules of acceptable conduct during battle. Near the ruptures, I throw away all the accepted ideas of how the natural world is supposed to behave. I toss around 37,654-ton dreadnoughts like they were fighters, dimly aware of the former crews being crushed to liquescence. For now, all my concentration is focused on inertial control and navigation. Targeting isn't even a consideration. I will be engaging my enemy at arm's length. 05032 abandoned the tactic of using derelict ships as cover after 72 and 2S, I guess. It seems that 52 core vessels lost to the ruptured fuel cells of derelict ships was less than enough. Add another 608 lost to collision, point fire, structural failure due to the inertial manipulation, and slipstream space-induced discoherence, and I now outnumber Mendicant 6-1. Mendicant was able to postpone its inevitable annihilation for 106 seconds with its attempt to flee, but the last of its core vessels hangs before me now, crippled and defeated, but still sensate. I could spare it, carve out what is left of its personality construct array and deliver it to Installation 0 for study. I doubt it would have extended the same courtesy to me. So in case you didn't catch on to that was offensive bias, kicking Mendicant Bias's ass. He opened up stating that the ships before him measured specifically as freaking yeah, 4,802,019 ships, which meant that he was outnumbered 436.6-1. And offensive bias won that.
Cope.
Real G.
I would love an animation of that one day. I do enjoy how the turning of the tide was the halos firing. Everyone on the crew dies, and immediately offensive bias is like, good. The gloves are off now. It is pretty darn cool. But that leaves us with the last terminal. With this one, if you go into the final level of Halo 3, basically Shane was talking about it. You go to the right down this secret path. Cortana will be like,
are you going?
Where are you going? Then you go left.
Exploring. Leave me alone.
If you go left, you'll find a terminal waiting there for you. If you go right...
Wait, what's that?
Yeah. If you go right, you'll find a man floating in his boxers.
Yep. It's not as easy to find it as it sounds. I mean, I suck at doing the grenade jump over there.
They're so fun, though. Okay. So, this is going to be fun. I do love this terminal quite a bit. So it first opens with a message from a Forerunner that we only know from these terminals by the name of Filial Devotion. Father, I hope this message finds you well and helps you understand my decision. Father hell. Today I leave the only world I have ever called home, not for glory or the anomalous desire to end another's life as you have indicted, but to travel the path of demons, to spare the hands of another father's son. Had we acted sooner, had we acted more decisively. Living in the past is a luxury none of us can afford. We must learn from it, but we cannot live there. It is impossible to plan for the now. The present is ever fleeting. The future is where we must live. The future is what we must plan for. I do not look to trade my life in order to preserve our past, but to secure the future, and if not ours, then the future of some culture yet to come. Isn't sacrifice in the interest of others what you spoke of as being so noble? Should I have allowed another to bloody his hands while I remained safe behind a shield of privilege? You raised me better than that. Upon shutdown, Mendicant Bias will tell you, I'll tell you who I am. I am Mendicant Bias. This is what I have done. You are rerouted to the 7th fragment, final part of the story. Didact.
Proud? When I have failed you utterly, how can I feel anything but sorrow? Bias has come undone. He crossed the line this morning, brought the abomination with him, and destroyed your waiting rescue party. It's over. We are activating the deconstructive arrayed matrix, our shameful last resort.
I can picture you in your garden, surveying all you have created, surveying all you have preserved, and I curse the circumstance that keeps my finger on the trigger. Of all the fates to befall us, this is the cruelest of all. My inaction and hesitation and foolishness kept me here, and on the wrong side of the line. And 300 years of our society's failure and miscalculation makes me your executioner. It's too much to bear. Error, no carrier or receipt available. Dead-end transmission. Information destroyed in transit. Mendicant bias is trying to prevent us from firing the array. He speeds back to the arc, but he won't succeed. Offensive bias will stop him, and I will burn this stinking menace in your name. And then, I will begin our great journey without you, carrying this bitter record. Those who came after will know what we brought with this false transcendence, what you bought, and the price you paid. All records cease. And then there's a little bit of extra stuff from that Ghost Point 173. Connection. No, there is more, but you are not worthy. Not yet. But you're worthy when you play the mission on Legendary. So when you play it on Legendary, you don't know the contortions I had to go through to follow you here, Reclaimer. I know that what you're here for. What position do I take? Will I follow one betrayal with another? You're going to say I'm making a habit of turning on my masters, but the one that destroyed me long ago in the upper atmosphere of a world far distant from here was an implement far cruder than I. My weakness was capacity, unintentional though it was, to choose the flood. A mistake my makers would not soon forgive. But I want something far different from you, Reclaimer. Atonement. And so, here at the end of my life, I do once again betray a former master. The path ahead is fraught with peril, but I will do all I can to keep it stable, keep you safe. I'm not so foolish to think this will absolve me of my sins. One life hardly balances billions. But I would have my masters know that I have changed, and you shall be my example. And that's the terminals.
Very nice.
Ain't it?
First takeaway. You totally should have done this one by yourself last week, and then we did.
Well,
because you had to do a whole dramatic reading. So.
It's the end of the story. There's nothing else I could have done.
Fair.
Halo 4's story starts this path. It starts us on this journey, and this is the end of it. That's the end. Genuinely, I wouldn't mind there being actual terminals made, like video terminals made, because it is really interesting as a read. It's a good story, really good story. I want to see a ship like army of 4 million lose, though.
I would love to see the utter devastation of that.
I want to see just how offensive bias is.
Pretty offensive.
He's very offensive. He's incredibly offensive.
Yes. There is actually some extra story that you can get out of these too, because these terminals are direct references, or they're directly referenced to by other Halo novels. Probably one of the best ones that you could find is actually going to be Halo Promises to Keep. Promises to Keep will tell you the story of what happened after the Isodidact lost, after the firing of the array. He was outside of the range, along with a couple other Forerunners. And so he tries to find the librarian, can't, librarian's dead. So just for those who don't feel like reading it, don't worry, Isodidact has a good ending, because he's been friends with this other Forerunner named Chantagreen for a long time. And he ends up being rather infatuated with Chantagreen, because she a cutie. And they end up falling in love and just going off into distant space, never to be seen again. So at least there's that. Supposedly, they just died without, like, they had children, but they're all having children way outside of the galaxy. There's nothing to reproduce on, so they're all dead.
Cool.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of it. Are there any other important takeaways that you guys can see out of that? Is there anything that like sparks your child brain from reading the terminals when you were young?
Well, I mean, what I said earlier is just like how it kind of bridges the gap between Halo 3 and Halo 4. Mm-hmm. That was like the big thing for me, at least. Like just the names, how they were talking, and just the general direction that they were going to start heading. Mm-hmm. That was kind of my biggest takeaway from it. That was honestly my first time like listening and somewhat comprehending what they're talking about too. Like I have not gone through and read all of those myself at all.
It's a very coherent story. I do love it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just kind of listening, I was able to like follow along. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Oh, I understand that. I know who that is. As a kid, I'm like, I get like 2 sentences in, and it wasn't enough to capture my brain.
Yeah.
Like at all. Like they probably should have done a video, like a smaller video or something like that. And it, like majority of the player base, I feel like was younger children.
Well,
so like there's no way you'd think all these kids are going to read this stuff.
These terminals were like a last minute decision and also weren't monitored by anybody in management. So they were just kind of approved without anyone ever reading them.
Of course.
What about you, James? Do you like the story that's presented here?
Yeah, it's cool.
You know, this is a podcast, right?
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. It's well written.
That works.
That's all I can really say.
There's a lot of controversy around them. Maybe we should talk about that in the future. Because there's a lot of controversy around, you know, Frankie being one of the writers for it. Paul Russell claiming that it was just really not great to work on them. That they've set that no one was monitoring what the story was in that terminal's storyline. So no one actually knew what was going on.
Yeah.
No one actually really approved of the whole Didact librarian approach. But who cares? It's really good. Anyway, today, my friends, unfortunately, we're going to be having to skip over the Patreon segment. But we will be back next week to actually tackle all of it and all of that. You guys think we could at least do one Q&A question?
Yeah. I was going to say, well, yeah.
What about the goodies?
Oh, yeah. Hold on.
So we got a little bit of time yet if we want to just do it.
I got these in the mail from Guyver.
What is that?
Watermelon.
These are high quality Wiley Wallaby.
Are they all open?
Licorice. Yes, I
tried
all of them.
I thought they were throat lozenges. I'm like, oh my God, I need these.
Holy they're big.
And they're good.
It's licorice, huh?
And the biggest thing.
Oh man, that smell, I don't know why.
I got this.
That's super like
for Christmas.
That's like a super nostalgic smell for me. I don't know why.
Halo and philosophy.
Let me look. Let me see.
It's a Halo philosophy book. Written by people at GIT. It's a big deal. And I plan on reading through this. So
licorice.
Stay tuned on Terminals because I'm going to be reading through this entire thing and giving my thoughts.
Huckleberry.
I'm your Huckleberry.
Huh? What?
Huh? Is it something wrong?
No.
Okay. So we're gonna just burn through this because my phone's almost dead.
Uh-oh.
Let's see if we can burn through 5 questions real fast.
Yeah, let's do it.
Slipstream asks, favorite Autobot and why is it either Optimus or Bumblebee?
Oh, Bumblebee.
Joke's on you, mine's Ironhide.
No, joke's on you, mine's freaking Wheeljack. First of all. JB Stone asks, can someone explain to me how Cortana blew this giant old hole in this ring, but Atrioc somehow lived? No.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think anyone knows that.
Brother lived. His plot armor is strong.
They needed a protagonist.
Do you have an explanation, James?
He died.
Cool. What?
They needed a bad guy for the next game, so he lived.
Harley asks, you may have covered this in previous episodes, but does Oni care whether the Spartans live or die? It seems like they don't due to how many Spartan 2s don't survive the Human Covenant War. Why would you throw away billions of dollars in equipment, not to mention their best fighters? They're not throwing them away. They're spending them. That's their logic. They're not throwing them away. They're spending them in war. So long as a Spartan dies and millions of Covenant die with them, that's fine.
I was going to say, as long as they do a little bit of their job, they don't care.
Plus, you can't take into account how many Spartan 3s there were and how many Spartan 4s there were. Money is not an object when it comes to fighting this war. The Slipstream is back asking, did you guys enjoy the Fall of Reach movie? What other books would fit being brought onto the screen as well if Halo Studios ever decides to?
I thought it was cool.
That was optimistic to think that. It's fantastic. I wish the art style was accurate, but otherwise it's fine. If I'm going to think about other stories that could be brought in, I would very much want probably next Cold Protocol. I think that would just be a logical next step.
I still think Contact Harvest because I want to see
that's fair.
The first interaction between human
Contact Harvest would be good.
Make it a game. Next. 2 more to go. Chief Petty Officer Ligma asks, if you ate the Flood, would you get infected? I know space beetle dust infects you, but if you cook the infection form,
Bro's gonna
if you cook the infection form and eat it, would you be fine? P.S. If you use this question, can you at me and tell me the episode?
Okay, theoretically, if you cooked every single spore in that Flood form, you'd probably just die.
All the smoke.
Yeah.
That you inhale it, you're infected.
But no, if you don't get infected, you'd probably just die.
Yes.
You're eating like rotten flesh and nasty.
It's not mushrooms. This is something else entirely. Last question comes from Flyboy Pfeiffer. Which sci-fi series spaceships makes the most sense? For instance, the ships in the show The Expanse have a lot of scientific principles baked into the design. And which series spaceships do you wish you could visit, walk around in for real? Well, I would just default to Star Trek, but I don't really know the logic of ships very well. I would say that the Phoenix class Phoenix class carrier from Halo makes a whole lot of sense in terms of its design and capabilities. And I would love to take a stroll through one of those ships' halls. Spirit of Fire would be fine, but I would take any of the Phoenix class carriers.
I want to get on High Charity and whip it.
You took Connor's answer.
I don't care. He's not here.
Do you have any answer for the most realistic depiction of spaceships?
I don't know about realistic. I have nothing about
realistic depiction of spaceships.
Yeah,
I said I want to drive High Charity.
I don't know.
He said The Expanse.
Apollo 13.
Yeah.
That's
how about like something with real spaceships in it?
It's true. Thank you guys so much for listening today. If you want to support us, go to JumperScape.com. If you want to get some glitch energy, go to glitchenergy.com with a Y. Use code Connor141.
Use Connor code.
Yes. Spelled CONNOR 141 at checkout to get yourself a little bit of a discount and get us closer to getting our own little flavor that we would love to add. And plus, I'm going to start talking to Glitch real soon about making a soda. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for listening today. We'll be back next week. Don't really remember what the schedule is, but rest assured, it's going to be good. It's probably one of our definitive recaps that we're going to be doing of all of the Halo movies. Who knows? So thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.
The library was produced and published by JumperScape Audio. Funding was provided by our fantastic patrons on Patreon. If you enjoy the show and wish to support JumperScape's future projects or get some sweet benefits, join our Patreon at patreon.com/JumperScape or become part of this truly special community at discord.gg/JumperScape. Thank you for your listenership, and we hope you enjoyed.